Chelsea have been extremely busy this transfer window, with big names coming and going after a summer of huge changes at the club. It was mixed emotions at the departure of Rudiger, Christensen and Romelu Lukaku, but the arrival of Sterling and Koulibaly have certainly made Chelsea fans optimistic of what's to come next year. But with Barcelona stealing all of their transfer targets, and their biggest rivals in Tottenham, Arsenal, Man City and Liverpool all strengthening their squads, are Chelsea doing enough to compete next season? Well, in today's video, we're going to take a look at what to expect from Chelsea next season, and what players they still need to sign to be competitive. Welcome back to the channel. If you enjoy this content, then please leave a like and subscribe for more. It was surprising to see how happy City were to let go of Sterling. Since arriving in Manchester, the English winger has been their most prolific player, with more combined goals and assists than any other player under Pep Guardiola's reign. At just 27, Chelsea have picked up a player who can certainly help them be more clinical in front of goal, something that's extremely lacking in Timo Werner and one of the main reasons as to why Lukaku went back to Inter. Similarly, Chelsea have picked up an absolute gem at centre-back in Kalidou Kolibaly. The 31-year-old Senegalese defender has been one of the best players in the Serie A for some time, and has been on Chelsea's radar for a number of years. He made over 300 appearances for Napoli, and captained Senegal to their first ever Afcon victory. So to better understand these two new signings, let's make a brief statistical comparison with some of the players leaving the club. All stats are brought to you by Soccerman, an in-depth player statistics and analysis tool. The link is in the description down below. Firstly, let's take a look at the two direct departures for some context. When comparing Lukaku and Sterling, it's evident to see how Sterling is a more well-rounded player, and contributed to more goals for his team than the Belgian striker. While Lukaku certainly has a much bigger physical presence, Sterling makes up for it with better on-the-ball ability, effortlessly dribbling past defenders and picking out teammates with a higher pass accuracy. While not a centre-forward, he also averaged many more touches inside the box compared to Lukaku, who would often drop deep but struggle to link up play. A more direct comparison could be made with Jack Grealish, who is arguably the reason why Man City were happy to let Sterling go. With similar game time, Sterling had more goals and assists than Grealish, with a much higher shot accuracy, but a much lower dribbling success rate. This is mostly because of Sterling's preferred playstyle of starting wide on the flank and getting on the end of any through balls into central areas, where he has a high chance of scoring, or arriving late on the second post for an easy finish. However, Grealish has a preference for dribbling past the fullback on the outside, before looking for a cutback or cross from a deeper position. Now, the replacement for Antonio Rudiger with Koulibaly seems to be a more straightforward one. While they both have similar physical attributes, their impact on the game is slightly different. There's a reason why Koulibaly is referred to as the wall by his teammates, averaging 0.9 blocks per game last season, compared to Rudiger's 0.3. The main difference between the two can also be seen in their long pass share, with Rudiger being more eager to move the ball forward quickly. On the pitch, Rudiger would often look to break the first line of press by bursting into the midfield when on the ball, or by playing a ball over the top into the wingers. However, Koulibaly has a more calm and secure approach to build-up, and is great under pressure from his opponent, able to beat his man or make a key pass forward. So, simply by looking at the numbers, it's clear Chelsea have brought in two world-class players. But how exactly will this change their playstyle? Let's take a look. Throughout the season, Chelsea's most used formation was the 3-4-2-1. While it was rather consistent at the back with changes only being made due to injuries, the front three was arguably the area that would constantly change. Typically, it would be Mount, Ziyech and Havertz as a false nine up top, but often featured Lukaku, Pulisic, Timo Werner or Hudson-Odoi. Chelsea will have a similar issue next season in midfield, with Loftus-Cheek, Gallagher, Jorginho, Kovacic and Kante all fighting for game time. For next season, Tuchel could maintain a similar lineup to keep the spine of the team as familiar as possible, or could opt for a lineup that would make the new signings more comfortable. So let's explore different possibilities to understand which one could be more beneficial. Let's first explore the possibility of Chelsea playing in their more common 3-4-2-1, as this is also the formation being tested during their pre-season tour. With Mendy in goal, the back three of Koulibaly, Silva and Chalobah looks likely. With their Koundé deal being hijacked by Barcelona, Chelsea are in dire need of at least one more centre-back, given the lack of depth in this position. The midfield will likely remain unchanged, with James and Chilwell as the wing-backs, and Kante and Kovacic in the centre, with a front three of Mount, Sterling and Havertz. Within this formation, Koulibaly will need to get used to playing in a back three, given that Napoli consistently played with a back four during his time with the club. Tuchel is a manager that wants his team to build from the back, looking to outnumber the midfield with the inside forwards or Havertz dropping deep into the centre, with the wing-backs pushing up either side to stretch the midfield and have options out wide. While he may not carry the ball forward as much as Rudiger would, Koulibaly has proven to have the patience and accuracy to pick out these passes. And a look at his heat map can show us he likes to pick up more advanced positioning closer to the midfield to stop counterattacks and add central support. Given that he naturally plays in a position similar to that of a left-sided centre-back, a back three formation could greatly benefit his playstyle, with added defensive support around him. However, it's on the right flank where Chelsea are more dangerous during build-up, and whoever Chelsea play as the right centre-back will be crucial to get the most out of Reece James. When pushing up into the midfield, it means the midfield will tighten up to close off central channels, allowing Reece James to have more space out wide, or to cut into the half space and allow for a direct pass into the right winger. It's a tricky position to stop, as if they attempt to close off the ball out wide, then central channels open up for Havertz to drop into. Now, when moving forward into the final third, it will also be a slightly new position for Raheem Sterling. Firstly, both Sterling and Mount are comfortable playing on either side, and can switch position throughout the match. Mason Mount often drifts into a more central position, and if Sterling stays on the left, can have a number of different options for support around him, with Reece James adding width on the other flank. The presence of Sterling in this inside forward position will also heavily benefit Chelsea's wingbacks, with Chilwell potentially having a lot more space to work with on the wing. Sterling in the half space will naturally force the defence to play in a more narrow position and will attempt to close this space down as quickly as possible, as he can turn and dribble the defender and get a shot away. This means that Chilwell can push up more frequently on the left and get in behind the last defender before delivering a ball into the box. Similarly, Tuchel also wants his wingbacks to invert and add more central pressure when possible. And with Sterling staying wide, Chilwell could be the one to attack centrally in the half space, disrupting the defensive block and potentially freeing up central channels into Mount or Havertz. But this rotation would work even better on the right wing, given Reece James's preference for cutting inside and creating opportunities from a more central position. While on the left, Sterling will look to move more centrally and link up play, on the right, he's a much more direct player, cutting on the outside of the defender and delivering low-driven crosses into the box, or even making late runs onto the second post. As we can see from his goal map, Sterling is a constant threat inside the box and will always be ready to get on the end of any cutbacks or low-driven crosses. The second option to explore is the 4-3-3, as it frees up one more midfielder for the team to work with. Their defence is arguably the area with fewest alternatives, and so switching to a back four would give the team more support on the bench. With a back two of Koulibaly and Silva, and the option of Chalobah and Azpilicueta from the bench. The midfield of Jorginho, Kante and Mount could prove to be extremely dangerous between the lines, and would also allow Sterling and Ziyech to play in their preferred positions out wide. Having three midfielders allows Jorginho to be the focal point during build-up, with Kante as an option past the first line of pressure and Mount hovering between the midfield and defensive lines. It would also allow Chelsea to get the most out of Mount, who could drift from side to side to help outnumber the flanks, creating triangles with Sterling and Chilwell, or Ziyech and Reece James. Havertz could also be used more effectively in this position. Given the use of wingers rather than inside forwards, it frees up more space for Havertz to drop off the defensive line, forming a double pivot with Mount, and freeing up space in behind the back line for the wingers to run into. It would be a pattern of play which Sterling is extremely familiar with, given City's use of a false nine in their last few seasons, and the English winger will constantly make these runs into the channel. Similarly to the 3-4-2-1, the relationship between the fullbacks and the wingers could also be used to great success, alternating their positioning out wide or in the inside channels. So these are just two of the ways I think Chelsea could line up next season. But the transfer window isn't done yet, and Chelsea are still in dire need of one more centre-back to help strengthen their team. With just one more defensive player on their books, Chelsea would have one of the biggest squads in the league, and we're likely to see a number of different formations being used, with players coming off the bench to help the team in the final stages. One thing's for certain is that Chelsea's transfer window is not done yet, and we're likely to still see big names on the move. And now let me know what you think. What do you make of Chelsea's transfer window, and what players do they still need to sign? Let me know in the comments down below, along with any suggestions for future videos. As always, if you enjoyed this content, then please let me know by leaving a like and subscribing for more. Thanks for watching.